above being teenagers. They were adults. And this happening now that I'm going to tell about happened up there. There was a store on one side of the main road, and I believe now, if I'm not mistaken, this was in Bowen. On the other side of the road from this store, there was a kind of a little adult meeting place for the males that came through the country up there, and that's M-A-L-E-S, not M-A-I-L-S. This store that I'm talking about, this little hole in the wall, you might call it, was run by a gentleman by the name of Billy Townsend. So we've got two Billies now in this story, Uncle Billy Bowen and Uncle Billy Townsend. The store across from Uncle Billy Townsend's little hole in the wall there was up on a bank, had to go up a bank on steps to get up to the store. And I think that was where the more genteel section of the public out in there traded, and the very, very low genteel group, or practically no gentility at all, frequented it at Uncle Billy Bowen, Uncle Billy Townsend's place across the road. Anyhow, Uncle Billy Townsend, he had a pool table in his little place over across the road. And of course, back in those days, why, everything, it was up in there, was any heat was cold heat in a little store like that. They had one of those great big round stoves in the also, there was a little bit more, I reckon, that went on over there than just pool playing. Because according to the information that was passed on, it was a kind of a water hole using, I doubt if there was much water in the liquid dough that was served there. Anyhow, this widow lady out there with her two sons, she was over at the store across from Uncle Billy's hole in the wall, and she got in a conversation with Uncle Billy Bowen, also at the store there. And she said that she was just very upset with what went on over there across the road. She said it was just terrible that not only her sons were being led astray by going over there and visiting, sitting around, and all the bad things that was going on over there. And she said that if she could, said she would just like to blow the place off of the face of the earth. Well, Uncle Billy, in his devious way of looking at things, he began to figure. So a few days after that, the two met over there in the store again. And either when she was leaving or when she was coming up there, they met out on the porch. And Uncle Billy went out there and he told her, he said, you know, we was talking the other day about what goes on down there across the road? She said, yes. She said, my sons are down there right now. She said, I know that. He said, well, you said that you'd like to get rid of it. She said, I sure would. He said, well, he said, let's go down to your buggy, or my buggy. Now this is Uncle Billy Bowen talking to this widow. He went down, so they went down the steps to the buggy down there. And he got in under the boot of the buggy, his buggy, and pulled out a stick of dynamite. He said, I don't think that I ought to go over there and try that. He said, I'm willing to do it. But he said, I think they'd shoot me, but he said, I don't think that they'd shoot a woman. And he said, if you want to back up the way you feel about this, I'll just give you this stick of dynamite, and it's already got a fuse in it. And he said, it's already fused and capped and ready to be lit. And he said, have you got any kitchen matches with you, or you got any matches with you? She said, no. So he reached in his pocket, took out some matches, and he gave them to her. She put this dynamite in her purse, put the matches in her purse, and walked across the road. And she opened the door and stood there in the door. And she said, there was her two boys in there. So she just told a whole bunch. She said, this place is just a den of sin, and it ought to be wiped off the face of the earth. And she got down on her knees and prayed and asked the good Lord to forgive her for what she's going to do. She took out this stick of dynamite, took a match, struck it, lit it, pitched it in. Well, one of them guys grabbed it and threw it back toward the door, and it hit the door sill and it bounced back in and run right up close to the stove. Took out the back end of that building, turned the stove over, and just barely did get back in time to save the place from getting on fire to where they couldn't put it out. And they did save the little old place. But the funny part of it was that a stick of dynamite never did go off. He had taken a folder that, or one of those little paper tubes that calendars used to come in, you know, store calendars come in. And he'd painted that thing red, and he packed it full of sand, and put a piece of fuse down in it, and that's what she threw in the building there.
Did that stop them from throwing hard?
I seriously doubt it. Well, but that was Uncle Billy. I mean, and they said that there he was up on the porch of the high store across the road, just laughing his head off at all that going on.
And he's the one that had to go hunting in a...
He went hunting in a buggy. Yeah. Yeah, he had a fellow and dogs, of course. But heck, he was darn near so big he couldn't get around, and that's all there was to it.
What did he do business-wise?
Oh, heck, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. He probably dealt in lumber and stuff like that up there, because that's about all there was up there then anyhow.
So, where'd you hear about this story first, if you remember?
You know, I forget now who in the Dickens told me about that thing. I just can't remember.
Well, Tom, thank you. This is, we're all here at Coy's house, sitting here listening to your tale, and today is the 9th of September, I think, of 92, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. Wednesday.
And we appreciate you talking to us, Tom.